You gotta be kidding me. How's my live stream title not updated? It's supposed to be. Here, let me update it. What's up, everybody? I'm just seeing if this fucking live stream will get viewers. It seems to be a popular debate. Give me a second. I gotta pull up the chat on my computer. I'm updating the title. Live debate. Live debate. Why do you believe God exists or doesn't? So I'm gonna have to pull up the live chat on my computer here in order to read your questions. So I will start this off and give you my theory and belief. I'm almost done updating the title. Is that all the emojis there are? What the fuck is this? Okay, here it is. Where's the question mark? Oh, there it is. Okay, save and update. Let me see. Let me go to the live chat. Stream started. Okay, I got it up. But where's my chat? Oh, there it is. Live. Okay. Why do you believe God exists? Dude, why is my screen so fucking dark? It wasn't nearly this dark. If I switch the camera, it probably won't be that dark. Fuck. Let me check. Is it still dark? God damn, guys. See, it's definitely not as dark like this. Let me try to get the phone to stand up. Okay. There we go. Let me make sure the microphone is on. Yeah, the microphone is on. Good, good. I got the chat up. So I guess I'll start this off. Why? First of all, I believe God exists because it's either God exists or doesn't exist. And to me, it makes more sense that he would and does exist. I have all sorts of reasons, but I'm waiting for some questions in the chat. So if nobody comes in the chat, I'm going to have to fucking just get on Overwatch. I wonder if my YouTube channel updated it with the restream title. I mean, it makes more sense to me that it isn't random. I have a lot of reasons why I would think it makes more sense that it isn't random. I have actually a really good theory on why I don't believe it could be random, and I'll tell you. One of the main reasons I don't think our existence is random is because if you take infinity and you argue okay, well, you can have these infinite probabilities and then eventually everything's going to happen. Like, I've heard that a million times. Oh, that's a popular belief. They'll say, well, if infinite things happen, eventually it's bound to happen. That's basically just a theory. But here's my main concept on how that doesn't make any fucking sense. I don't know if you guys understand this concept, but my concept is infinity basically doesn't get another chance. So to argue, okay, well, you have infinite probability it's eventually going to happen. Well, you can't guarantee that it's going to happen besides, oh, well, that's your own word. That's what you say. Here's why I say that. The reason is because if there is infinite probability that dictated the basically arisal of existence, then it's basically only expected to happen once, because you have infinite variations. But the thing is, it's not going to repeat. That's what people say. Well, you're going to be that spider in the jungle one year or at some point in time, or you're going to be that zebra, or you're going to be the president, or you're going to be whatever. Everyone's going to keep flip-flopping and switching. That's a theory. There's no guarantee that's even going to happen like that. So if you go back infinitely, you reach a point where there is non-existence, basically. So the theory dictates, okay, well, you have infinite probability, and eventually, boom, you get one perfect combination. It's like a lock. See, that's the way I see it. Okay, so existence is like a lock with an infinite combination on it. So if the combination unlocks once, it's never going to unlock again. So my theory is, if this is a random unlocking of probability, then we would expect for it to never occur again, because it already took infinite duration to arise or happen already. So now you're really rolling the dice, gambling, because if it are to be like that, it's almost like it's virtually impossible that it's ever going to happen again. The reason I conclude that is because it took infinite time to arrive here. So for it to reset, you would need infinite time again for it to reach the unlocking point. But since we've already saw a beginning, so we're witnessing the beginning, a point in time to where it begins. The combination unlocked, as far as that we theorize, with no beginning. So once you reach the point of a beginning, you can never reach infinity to unlock the combination. I don't know if that makes sense, but basically, the problem is you'll never have enough time to unlock the combination from this point forward. It was only from no beginning that the combination potentially, possibly may have unlocked. So that's my theory. Okay, so the theory, or the universe in existence, unlocked, but it had no beginning. It had infinite time. We've already reached a point to where now there's a beginning. Okay? So if there's a beginning, so we're beginning from this point forward. Okay, so now they're saying, okay, well, the combination's going to unlock further. It's going to unlock again. Okay, your theory is flawed because the combination only unlocked with infinite time behind it. So no matter how far into the future you go, in theory, the combination can never unlock. Yeah, unless it spontaneously unlocks. I'm not saying it's not possible, but if it took infinite duration with no beginning and then spontaneously now it unlocked, we're saying the amount of time that was taken for the combination to unlock is a number larger than galaxies times galaxies times galaxies. So it took quadrillions of bazillions of bazillions of bazillions of bazillions of bazillions infinitely times infinity for the combination to unlock. So from a beginning point, you're never going to reach those number frames, because no matter how far into the future you go, even the largest number you can conceive, let's say 100 quadrillion bazillion 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 times 100 bazillion bazillion, you would still always need to keep multiplying that number again and again infinitely, always, in order for it to even become microscopically to the scale or size of the number prior, because it took infinite time for the combination to unlock. So no number is going to ever unlock it again, because you're always going to need more time, more time, more time, more time, more time. So my argument is that theory doesn't make sense, because you're basically, it's like trying to think that you can build a house in 30 seconds, which I'm not saying it's not possible, but I'm saying it's like you're trying to build a house in 30 seconds when we saw that the house takes infinite amounts of time to become there, to arise. So it's almost like you're rushing it. You're not giving it enough time. You're never going to give it enough time if you're taking on that perspective of, well, whoa, just give it 100 quintillion, bazillion, bazillion, bazillion. Yeah, that's still like a microsecond. No matter what number you conceive, you can't compare any finite number to infinity. That is the argument. So how does your theory make sense that, okay, well, it will arise if you give it a second? You're basically saying give it a second. But we've already saw what giving time 1 second does. When time continues forth on the scale of 1 second, it just keeps continuing as it is. So why would it not just continue as it is? Meaning, okay, well, if I drop this can, give it a second, what's going to happen? It's just going to drop. So the only thing that's going to happen within 1 second is what is in front of it. So that's not in front of it, though. So the theory is proposing like that's what's in front of it. But where are you getting that's what's in front of it? Nothing suggests or guarantees, well, that's what's in front of it. In theory, there's nothing in front of it, because you go back infinitely, you can't compare a finite number to infinity. There's no comparison. No number is comparable to infinity. It automatically makes it smaller than microscopically small, smaller than a grain of sand in comparison. No matter what number, yeah, you might conceive, well, this number's big, this number is plausible, but that's to your logic. Oh, well, you think that number's big enough. But in reality, if you were to take a step back, that number is microscopically small. It's tinier. It's like basically smaller than a grain of sand. So you might as well just say, well, give it 1 second. Okay, so if we can see that nothing happens in 1 second, like my theory is, okay, well, if you're going to say give it 1 second, then you're basically open to the idea at any point in time in the future, there's going to be another Big Bang. But you're basically saying give it 1 second. Okay, so we've already given it 1 second. How many seconds have gone by since I've started the live stream? Hundreds of seconds already. Okay, so it's already had hundreds of seconds, but yet there is not another Big Bang occurring. Not that we can see, not that we know of. Yeah, you might argue, well, somewhere out there, there's another Big Bang happening right now. But you don't know that. That's your theory. That's what you propose. That's what you expect. But it doesn't make sense when you understand time, duration. Okay, 100 quadrillion, bazillion years is basically no different than a couple of seconds. Why? Because any number in comparison to infinity is like the same amount of time. So you might as well compare 1 second into the future to infinite, or not infinite, quadrillions of bazillions of seconds into the future. It makes no difference if you go quadrillions of bazillions of seconds into the future, or you just see if your hypothesis or theory is concluded or solved within 1 second. What's the difference if we wait 1 second or if we wait a quadrillion, bazillion years? It's like there's no difference, because any number compared to infinity, it's like that number will pass within a microsecond. So when you go back to no beginning and the combination unlocking, you're talking that you always need infinite amounts of time in order for the event to occur. So when you're going into the future from a beginning point, like basically the reset button, you'll never reach even a fraction of the amount of time that it's already taken for the event to occur. Now, I'm not saying it wouldn't spontaneously at any second just happen again, but it would make no difference if you compare a quadrillion, bazillion years going into the future. Then, okay, well, let's just work with a couple of seconds into the future. Makes no difference, because that's how fast time goes. There was infinite time before our existence. So you'll never reach a point where there's a basically kind of like a beginning. Well, it's just starting. Because if there's ever a point where it's just starting, it's like everything happens in a microsecond, the blink of an eye. Like it basically doesn't even take time to happen. It just boom, 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 chain reaction. So all I'm saying is the theory dictates that if the combination is going to reset and unlock over and over and over and over, then you would imagine you're going to see another Big Bang every second. Well, there's another Big Bang. 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 Every second, you would expect to see another Big Bang if that's going to be what is creating the result. So if that's what's creating the result is, well, there's another Big Bang. There's another Big Bang. There's another Big Bang. Every second, there's another Big Bang. Then why do we only see one Big Bang? That is my theory on why it doesn't make sense that God doesn't exist. Because why does it make sense that God exists? Because things appear to be calculated. One may argue that things don't look or appear to be calculated, but I would say, why would you say things don't appear to be calculated? The biggest thing that people are going to argue is, okay, so the orbits of the planets, to me, appears to be calculated. But to somebody who wants to just basically say whatever they want to say, they're going to say, well, give it enough time, it's going to happen. That's what happens with random things occurring. But where's the evidence? Where's the proof? There's no proof that it's all just random. I would be more prone to believing that it's random if we saw random things occurring. Like, let's just say, well, the moon is like set in a cycle to where it's consistent. See, random is not consistent. That's what the biggest argument is. That's why most people, when we believe in God, we're like, well, why does everything seem consistent? That's not what random appears to be. See, if things were random, you would expect things to pop in and out of existence randomly. Like, you would imagine that one night, if you're just sitting out in your backyard looking at the fucking moon, that the moon would just pop out of existence and disappear and then pop back into existence. But that doesn't happen. Well, then that's why I dictate doesn't appear to be random. It's consistent. See, true random has no order. So if you take random infinity, you'll always get some gigantic, huge, random number that's probably bigger than the whole fucking galaxy. There's like no consistency. It's going to be jumping back and forth. High, low, middle, high, low, middle, high, low, middle, high, low, middle. So if it's random, you're going to see things make sense, not make sense, kind of make sense. And you'll have a variation of it all meshing together equally of these three main events occurring. Things make sense, things don't make sense, things kind of make sense. But when I look at the universe and the construct of reality, it's like everything makes sense, which is what's known as the anthropic principle. Like everything makes sense. It's balanced to the razor's edge. Well, if that star's not there, everything else ain't there. If your brain ain't there, you're not there. If your blood isn't there, you're not there. If your heartbeat isn't there, you're not there. That's consistency. That's not random. But how many people argue, well, it's just random. It's just random. But that don't make sense. There's no solution to it being random. Although, yeah, you could argue possibly maybe it is random. But that's still a hypothesis. That's a theory. That's your own feeling. That's what you feel. Well, I feel like it's random. Well, I feel like it's not random. That's how I feel. I feel like it isn't random. So what makes more sense? Everything is random or everything is not? Because it's either A or B. If everything is random, what would it actually look like? You have to ask yourself, okay, if everything is random, then, okay, here's a good example. So if everything is random, I have a fan right here. When I press this button, why does it consistently turn on and off? See, that's not random. Random, if everything is random, then you would expect, well, if I press this button on the fan, anything could happen. We don't actually really know what might happen. Like, the moon might blow the fuck up. See, that's random. That's what random is. Okay, so if I keep pressing this button on the fan enough times, the theory of someone that believes that the universe is random dictates everything is random. So they dictate, well, just keep pressing it, and eventually the moon will blow up. Okay, how many times do they expect I gotta press this fucking button before the moon randomly blows the fuck up? Or if I just randomly press this button, that the sun is randomly gonna shut the fuck off. See, that's not consistency. It's either random or consistent. Which is it? Everything is consistent or everything is random? Well, appears to me everything's consistent. Because if I keep pressing this fucking button, it consistently turns on and off. The sun doesn't randomly just turn off. The moon doesn't randomly fucking disappear. The moon doesn't randomly blow up. I don't randomly turn my heartbeat off. See, that's what it means. If you argue everything's just random. Okay, well, if everything is just random, then me pressing this button on this fan means randomly my heart might just blow up. See, that's what random is. So there's a big difference between saying everything's random and everything's consistent. So why do you think I always take the side of someone that believes in God more than someone who says everything's just random? Because we don't see everything to operate like that. Everything isn't just randomly happening. Like this sphere, for example. All right, it's consistently holding its form, right? It doesn't randomly just teleport. See, that's what random is. Like, random is nobody really knows what's going to happen. See, that's what random is. In fact, I'm going to pull up ChatGPT and have it define what is random. How do you define random? A good general definition of random is, here, remember, I'm just going to read you exactly what ChatGPT wrote. Okay. Let me line up my camera real quick again. All right, looks like I'm lined up. So, by the definition of random, here's the definition of random. Random, an outcome that cannot be predicted with certainty before it happens, even if every possible outcome is known. Here are a few ways to think about it. Dice. Before you roll, you don't know which number will land. Coin flip. You know it will be heads or tails, but not which one. Even just a 50-50 A or B, you still don't know what is going to happen. It's a guess. So if it's random, you can only guess what's going to happen. So if everything is random, I can only guess what's going to happen. Shuffle deck. You know the cards, but not their order. A more mathematical definition. Randomness is the absence of a predictable pattern in individual outcomes. Over many trials, patterns can emerge, like a fair coin landing heads about 50% of the time. But the next individual outcome is still unpredictable. So each outcome is unpredictable. This does not appear to be a random event because it's highly predictable. That's why I'm dictating, well, when I turn the fan on, it's not random because I can predict when I press the button, the fan's going to turn on. See, if it's random, all sorts of different shit should happen. Like, okay, if it's random, my keyboard might just start levitating. See, that's random. So there doesn't appear to be any sort of randomness to just about everything. Just like breathing air. It doesn't seem like I randomly breathe air. It's like I consistently breathe air. It's not like I randomly get somebody else's thoughts crossing through my brain. It's like I consistently only have access to my own thoughts, my own brain. Oh shit, I turned on the mist. So, one arguing that everything is random, that makes no sense. Where does it appear to be everything is random? Everything is randomly happening. See, if you don't believe in God, it's like you just think everything just randomly happens. You're just randomly breathing air. You're just randomly your brain is just randomly operating. Your heart is just randomly beating. See, even if your heart was randomly beating, that means it should just stop randomly. It should just teleport in and out of existence randomly. All sorts of random results. Because when you're dealing with random, it's unpredictable. Highly unpredictable. Randomness equals highly unpredictable. You can almost never really guarantee what's actually going to happen. But we can almost certainly guarantee what's going to happen with our hearts up to a certain point. Yeah, when we die, yeah, it stops beating. But right now, my heart is just beating. So we can't say, well, it's just randomly beating, or I'm just randomly breathing in air. Because if I'm just randomly breathing in air, then you won't just keep getting the same results or be able to keep predicting it. Okay, so how come I can predict that I'm going to just keep breathing? Because that's not what random is. To be able to predict random, then it's not random if you can predict what's going to happen. Well, if I'm able to predict that I'm just going to keep breathing until I die, then there's not necessarily very much randomness to it. That's my argument. Because the argument is everything is random. But it makes more sense that everything is consistent, which is the opposite of random. But let me continue reading the definition here of random. Philosophically, some people distinguish between true randomness, no underlying cause or hidden information could allow perfect prediction. This is sometimes discussed in quantum physics. Like they call it a probability cloud or something like that. Apparent. Pseudo randomness. The outcome looks random because it's too complex or because we lack enough information, even if it is determined by prior causes. a concise definition. Random equals an outcome whose exact result cannot be known in advance with certainty. So that is the main definition of random. An outcome whose exact result cannot be known in advance with certainty. That definition works well for everyday conversations while avoiding claims about whether true randomness exists at the deepest level of physics. Now, one could argue that it's a hyper branch of randomness, that it's already basically become like super random, to where it's ultimately still randomly operating, but through a random prior outcome that generated it. But there's no evidence to suggest that. There's no proof that anything established through complete randomness. And in fact, it would be almost absolutely absurd to think everything just randomly appeared. Like even you being conceived in your mom's stomach, it'd be absurd to think, oh, well, that just randomly took shape, took form. There appears to be some sort of consistency that, yeah, don't get me wrong, there's a little bit of randomness to everybody when they're born. Like, everybody looks a little bit different, right? Like, you're male or female. You have long hair or short hair. Or some people might be born with an arm or without an arm. Some people might be born with a allergic, they might be allergic to certain things. Yeah, that's a little bit of random, but not necessarily the random to the degree of what's being claimed. For example, to say everything is randomly occurring, like to say the Big Bang randomly occurred, means that nobody knows what it's really going to do. Then why is it so consistent? Why is it consistently operating in a manner of order? Well, we need this, we need that, we need this. Same with when you're conceived in your mother's womb. It's consistently creating the same thing. So that's not necessarily random. Like, everybody gets eyeballs. Most everybody, unless there's a genetic malfunction. I'm not talking about the genetic malfunctions. The majority of people, there's very little genetic and biological malfunction. So, yeah, eventually there are some genetic malfunctions. I get it. I understand. But even people with genetic malfunctions, like let's say somebody with Down syndrome, they still get eyes, they still get a brain, they still get arms, they still get legs, they still get a stomach, they still get a heart, they still get blood. So that is something that is not necessarily random. So to say everything is random, well then, when everyone's being conceived in their mother's womb, well, one person might come out popping out like a fucking bear, right? Oh, my child's a fucking bear. Because it randomly happened like that. See, now we can argue, okay, everything's randomly happening. Sally over there is having birth to a fucking toucan fucking bird. Barbara over here is giving birth to a fucking bear. I'm trying to think of more female names. Tanya over here is giving birth to a fucking monkey. Let's see. Katrina, she's just now giving birth to a hippo. See, that's random. We don't really ever see that unless there's normally something fucking bad, like something not normal, something not ordinary. Like, I think, I don't know if this is fact, but like, if somebody tries to mate with a monkey, like, it's not even possible. Like, it won't, the biological construct of it doesn't fucking work like that. Like, you can't breed a fucking tiger and a human. I mean, unless you put them in a test tube and you're modifying genetics, yeah, that's different. But that's not random, because you're making it happen. So there's a big difference between arguing everything is random and everything's consistent. See, I argue everything appears to be consistent. Maybe not completely consistent, but more consistent than random. So, for example, like I was saying, a good example, like somebody having a baby, you don't expect, like, well, someone's just randomly going to have a hippopotamus, or randomly, oh, it's going to, their child's going to come out as a fucking snake. We've, like, I mean, as far as I know, we've never seen it. You gotta, it's like the same species creates the same species. Spiders create spiders. Bears create bears. Birds create birds. Insects create insects. Humans create humans. There's not much randomness to it. And one can argue everyone's randomly different, but that's more of a variety. So there's a variety behind human nature. Like, let's say, for example, I have a fucking child. There's a variety of ways my child might come out. My child might come out super genius. My child might come out having big ears. My child might come out having lots of fucking hair. But that's a variety, not necessarily random. Random means highly unpredictable, like almost no way to really know exactly what it's going to be. It's like, if something's random, well, you can only guess. Variety is somewhat random, because if there's a variety of different types of humans, you can only guess, like, well, is my child going to have blonde hair or brown hair? Black hair, red hair, long hair, short hair. There's a variety of options, but it falls within that variety. Random doesn't have variety. That's the biggest difference. Let me see if ChatGPT can explain this. Can you explain how random is different than variety, even though they seem to be the same almost? Let's see what it says. It says, this is actually a really interesting distinction. Random and variety often look similar, but they're describing different things. Random equals unpredictability. Random describes how an outcome is chosen. You don't know what will happen next. See, when you have a kid, you kind of know what's going to happen. Each outcome is uncertain before it occurs. Example, rolling a dice. Actually, to me, rolling a dice is kind of like there's a variety between it. Even if you roll 6 sixes in a row, each roll was still random. Maybe they should call it variety on rolling random dice. Well, there's a variety of outcomes. Variety, different outcomes. Oh, okay. So variety. Okay, let me see if I make sense of this. Variety equals different outcomes. Variety describes what outcomes exist, not how they are chosen. There are multiple possibilities. It says nothing about predictability. Example, an ice cream shop has 50 flavors. The flavors are variety. Choosing one by closing your eyes is random. See, there is such a very confusing distinction between random and variety. They're almost like the yin and yang of each other. Example 1. Music playlist, variety. Song A, song B, song C, song D. That's variety. Random. The app randomly picks B, then D, then A. The randomness is the selection process. So if everything is random, we have infinite variety that should potentially be selected. So if I'm randomly breathing, one of the outcomes should dictate, well, now it's basically inconceivable for me to get that same result to keep occurring because it's always going to be random. Well, it might let you breathe and it might not let you breathe. It's going to be random. Okay, example 2, dice. A dice has 6 different faces. 6 faces equal variety. Which face lands equals random. Example 3, chess. There are millions of legal chess positions. That's variety. If you choose your next move by rolling a die or choosing a random number generator, that's random. If Magnus Carlsen chooses a move because it's the strongest, that's not random. Even though there were many possible moves, many variety. Example 4, poker. 52 cards create enormous variety. The shuffled order is random. The key difference. Variety answers how many different possibilities are there. So how many sides of the dice are there? Random answers how is one possibility selected. So to say that everything is random, you're saying that there's infinite variety. So why isn't infinite variety being selected infinitely? Meaning, why isn't 1 second the moon blowing up or beginning to glow green, purple, orange? See, now we would be looking at random. Everything's completely random, where things aren't consistent. See, once you have consistency, it's like the dice has landed. Okay, you can have variety without randomness. A chess engine always chooses the best move from many legal moves. Many possibilities exist, but the choice is deterministic. So you have a variety of options. Certain possibilities are selected. So with variety, you're basically able to select. If it's random, you're unable to select. So to say everything is random, it's saying that everything is unable to select. It's not selecting. So variety is like it's been selected. If you look at the galaxy, it looks like it was selected. Well, this looks to be selected. It was selected. Selected. Randomness, there is no selection. You don't select. randomness with very little variety. A coin flip has two possible outcomes, yet the result can be random because you aren't necessarily selecting the outcome. If you are not selecting the outcome, or if the outcome is not being selected, it's random. So to argue that the universe doesn't appear to have been selected, that is like a myth. Because it, in my opinion, appears like it's been selected. Why? Because you have the anthropic principle. The sun can't be any closer or any further away. Otherwise, it just tends to folds too far one way or the other way. It has to be exactly where it has potentially may have been selected. Now, it may have not been selected, but that's a different argument. We're saying that it may have been selected. It would make more sense that it was selected. Well, it was selected. It was selected. Everything was selected. That was selected. That was selected. That was selected. That was selected. Like how your body operates. That doesn't appear to be random. Something that was unselected. It appears to be selected. Of course, that's my own opinion. Just like how someone who says, well, it appears to not be selected, that's their opinion. It's your best guess, it's my best guess. Doesn't mean I'm right, doesn't mean I'm wrong, it doesn't mean you're right, it doesn't mean you're wrong. Your best guess is only your best guess. You guess everything was not selected. My best guess, everything was selected. Because nothing would make sense if it wasn't selected. Well, if that wasn't selected, if that wasn't selected, if that wasn't selected, that's the entropic principle. I'm going to pull that up in 1 second. All right, so let me finish reading this. An analogy. Imagine a vending machine. The machine contains 100 different drinks. 100 drinks equals variety. If you press a button and the machine randomly dispenses one equals random, means you don't select. The number of choices, variety, is what the result will be. Well, you have a variety of options that will occur, but it will be random, meaning you don't get to select. You don't get to select. If something's random, you partake in no selection. You are not selecting. So the ChatGPT continues on saying the number of choices, variety, and the method of choosing randomness are separate concepts. A concise way to remember it: variety equals many possible outcomes, many possible selections. Random equals no reliable way to predict which outcome will occur next. No selection. Let me pull up what is the anthropic principle and how does that point to non-randomness in a sense. The anthropic principle. This is one of the biggest ways that it points to things are not random. All right, let me read this. Remember, I'm just reading you guys what ChatGPT just wrote. I just asked it. All right. The anthropic principle is often misunderstood. It does not say, hold on, I got to make sure the camera's lined up. All right, it is lined up. So it says this: the entropic principle is often misunderstood. It does not say the universe was designed. Instead, hold on, I gotta clean my glasses. There's like a smudge on them. Okay. It does not say the universe was designed. Instead, it explains why we should not be surprised to observe a universe compatible with our existence. There are two common forms. Weak anthropic principle. We observe a universe capable of supporting observers, because if it couldn't support observers, we wouldn't be here to observe it. Example, imagine 1 trillion planets. 999,999,999,999 cannot support life. One can. If you exist, you inevitably find yourself on the one that supports the life. That observation alone doesn't tell you whether the planet was designed or whether it happened by chance. Strong anthropic principle. This is more speculative. Different versions suggest the universe must have properties that allow observers to exist, or that observers play a fundamental role in the universe. There is no single accepted version. How does it relate to randomness? This is where philosophy enters. Suppose someone says the universe is completely random. That's where I disagree. You might respond, if the universe were random, why does it have such precise conditions that permit life? Why does it appear to be selected? Like the distance from the sun to the earth, that appears to be selected. Okay, this leads into discussions about fine-tuning. Scientists have noted that many physical constants appear to fall within ranges compatible with complex structures and life. From there, different interpretations are possible. View 1, design, theism. The universe appears finely tuned because it was intentionally created. That would make 100% sense. Whereas if it wasn't fine-tuned, that would make no fucking sense. See, that's my own opinion, though. 2, the multiverse. Even a multiverse wouldn't make sense. But that's still my own opinion. That's my guess. That's to say that a multiverse is the result of why we exist. That's still their guess. That's a guess. That's their best guess. It's always going to be a guess. There may be an enormous number of universes with different constants, but any number of universes is no comparison in comparison to infinity. So billions and billions of galaxies still doesn't compare to infinite galaxies. We naturally find ourselves in one of the rare life-permitting ones because otherwise we wouldn't be here. View 3, unknown physics. There may be deeper laws that require the constants to have the values they do, rather than them being truly random. Does the anthropic principle point to non-randomness? By itself, no. The anthropic principle is mainly an observation selection effect. It explains why observers should expect to find themselves in a universe compatible with observers. It does not by itself demonstrate design or rule out chance. However, some people argue that it raises a further question. Why is there a life-permitting universe at all? Their reasoning is that if life-permitting universes are extraordinarily rare among all possible universes, then finding ourselves in one might call for an explanation beyond pure chance. Others argue that anthropic principle plus a multiverse or undiscovered physics is sufficient, a balanced way to frame it. If you're discussing this in your live stream, you could say the anthropic principle doesn't prove God exists. What it does show is that our observation of a life-permitting universe isn't enough by itself to distinguish between design, a multiverse, necessity, or chance. It narrows the discussion to why such a universe exists, but it doesn't settle the answer. That keeps the argument philosophically accurate while inviting discussion about the explanation, about which explanation is most plausible. So it all comes down to what is more plausible. Everything being basically calculated or not calculated. In my opinion, everything looks calculated. Now here is an even more mind-boggling question. The most mind-boggling question of them all is, this is where everybody that are non-believers jumps to the side of being a non-believer. How can God always exist? That is what confuses everybody. Well, shouldn't somebody have had to have created God? Not necessarily, because that's what the definition of God is to not be created. To just automatically be there. So in a sense, we're kind of like God, because we're just automatically here. It's like we were not created. We just automatically were able to exist. That's God's nature, to just automatically be there, to automatically exist. So when he created everything, in my opinion, that's why he made it like that, to where everything is like it automatically is just there. It automatically just exists. Because the way God sees it is we are perceiving existence how God somewhat sees it. Because if everything weren't exactly the way it was, if it wasn't just automatically the way it was, if it wasn't just automatically working, then it's like it would never work at any point. Same with God. Well, if he just didn't automatically exist or operate, well, then it's like he wouldn't ever possibly exist or be able to operate. He just has to be able to exist and operate automatically, simultaneously. Now, one might argue that's not possible. You can't just automatically operate. But we see it's very possible that someone or that God could possibly exist. Why do I say that it's very possible that God could exist? Because there are lots of things that are like that just automatically exist, that are automatically just there, and nobody really knows why is it just there? Why does it just operate? Like, space itself is one of the biggest things of seeing is believing. So apparently, space is infinite. It appears to be infinite. There are some theories saying that it's not, but that's besides the point. So, space apparently has always just been there, and it's infinite, and that itself is a phenomenon of nature, a miracle. Because you have two revelations of existence where infinite space can just automatically be there, or infinite space can just automatically not be there. It's either A or B. So whether it's A or B doesn't even necessarily make much of a difference. Because if it's automatically there, that's like a miracle. But if it's automatically not there, that's like a miracle. So now you're just on the other side saying, well, how isn't infinite space not just automatically there? That doesn't make sense. You see, you're always faced with the dilemma of either everything's just there or isn't there. And I'm going to wrap that up. We'll try this again. Maybe we'll get more participants in it. But that is my mindfuck of the day for you guys. So think about that one.